Hi readers, yesterday we talked about how we need to make sure that we're keeping tabs on our comprehension. So that means that we stop every few pages and we think about what we've read and we retell. So we think, who were the characters, what were they doing, and how were they feeling? Give me a thumbs up if you made yourself a little sticky note like this and you used it as you were reading yesterday. Awesome. Well, if you didn't, maybe today you'll give that a try, because good readers don't wait until the end of a story to see if they can remember what they're reading. So I'm going to practice this again today, and we're going to read one of my favorite Halloween stories. It's called The Hallowiener. And we're going to use our Post-it to remind us to stop and think. So I'm going to go ahead a few pages. I've already done my sneak peek and done some good thinking. So I'm going to go ahead 4 or 5 pages. The Hallowiener. There once was a dog named Oscar who was half a dog tall and 1.5 dogs long. Because of his unusual shape and size, all the other dogs made fun of him. Wiener dog, they called him, and Oscar did not like it one bit. Oh. Oscar's mother was no help either. Every morning when the dogs walked off to obedience school, Oscar's mother stood in the front yard waving and calling out, "Farewell, my little Vienna sausage." And all the other dogs laughed and laughed. Poor Oscar. Most of the time, Oscar was upset by all of this, but not today. Today was Halloween, and Oscar was thinking about other things. All day long at obedience school, Oscar daydreamed about Halloween night, trick-or-treats, and scary costumes. When Oscar got home, he dashed upstairs to start working on his scary costume. But when he got to his room, a surprise was waiting for him. "Happy Halloween, my little sausage link," said Oscar's mother. "I've made you a costume to wear for trick-or-treats." When Oscar saw the costume, he nearly fainted. Ooh, I really want to know what's inside the box, but I have to stop and make sure I remember what's happening. So who were the characters? Well, the main character is Oscar, his mother, and there were some other dogs in the story. What were they doing? Well, first, Oscar went off to school, and his mom was calling him silly names like Sausage Link, and the other dogs were laughing at him, and that made Oscar feel pretty embarrassed and sad because he's kind of unusually shaped. He's really long and really short. But when he got to school, he wasn't thinking about that anymore because he started to feel excited. It was Halloween and he couldn't stop thinking about costumes and candy. So when he got home, he ran upstairs really quickly because he was going to make his costume, and he found a box with a surprise inside. And it says he nearly fainted, so I'm not sure how he's feeling there. I don't know if it's a good thing, if he's really excited, or if he nearly fainted for a bad reason. We'll have to read on to find out. But I remembered who the characters were, what they were doing, and how they were feeling on those pages, so that means I can read on. So I'm going to put my sticky note a few pages ahead so I can remember to stop, think, and retell. Oh gosh. Look what was in the box. It was a giant hot dog bun, complete with mustard. And guess who was supposed to fit in the middle? Oscar did not want to hurt his mother's feelings, so he decided to wear the silly costume. Oh. That night, all the dogs on the block gathered to show off their costumes. Everyone was looking quite scary. Then Oscar showed up, looking quite frank. When the dogs saw Oscar in his silly costume, they howled with laughter. "Look at Oscar," they cried. "He really is a wiener dog." Poor Oscar was so embarrassed. Wiener dog," laughed the other dogs as they ran off to go trick-or-treating. Oscar tried to keep up with the dogs, but his silly costume kept slowing him down. All night long, the other dogs hounded every treat they could get their paws on. So by the time Oscar got to each house, there were no treats left. Oh, I have to stop and think. All right, so who were the characters? Well, Oscar and the other dogs. What were they doing? You know, I got to thinking about Halloween and costumes, and my mind kind of wandered there. I was thinking about my daughter Amelia and what she's going to be for Halloween, and then I started thinking about all the yummy Halloween candy. I don't really remember what they did on those pages. Should I read on? No, I need to go back and reread to make sure I'm enjoying the story, understanding the story, and remembering the story. So I'm going to flip back. I'm going to read it again. All right, so here's where I left off. This time I'm not going to let my mind wander. I'm going to keep my mind in the book. It was a giant hot dog bun, complete with mustard. And guess who was supposed to fit in the middle? Oscar. Oscar did not want to hurt his mother's feelings, so he decided to wear the silly costume. That night, all the dogs on the block gathered to show off their costumes. Everyone was looking quite scary. Then Oscar showed up, looking quite frank. When the dogs saw Oscar in a silly costume, they howled with laughter. "Look at Oscar," they cried. "He really is a wiener dog." Poor Oscar was so embarrassed. "Wiener dog, laughed the other dogs as they ran off to go trick-or-treating. Oscar tried to keep up with the dogs, but his silly costume kept slowing him down. Oh yeah, look at that, he's really far behind. All night long, the other dogs hounded every treat they could get their paws on. Oh my goodness, look at them. They're grabbing everything out of that bowl. So by the time Oscar got to each house, there were no treats left. Aw, poor Oscar. All right, so let's stop. Who were the characters? Well, there were Oscar and the other dogs. What were they doing? Oh, that's right. So Oscar opened the box and it was a hot dog bun, and he didn't want to hurt his mom's feelings, so he put it on and he went out, and all of the dogs met out on the street on Halloween night. And you know what the other dogs did? You remember? They started laughing at Oscar and saying that he really is a wiener dog, and I think Oscar was really embarrassed and he was feeling badly about his costume. So then next, they started trick-or-treating. But all the other dogs ran off really quickly so that they could get all of the candy. That was pretty selfish. And poor Oscar, his costume made it so that he couldn't run really fast and he couldn't keep up. So by the time he got to each house, there was no candy left. I bet he was feeling really disappointed and sad. So do you see, readers, what happened there? I had to go back and reread because I didn't really remember what happened on those pages. So I'm going to put my sticky note ahead. And that might happen to you sometimes. If your brain wanders and you're not remembering what you're reading, you've got to go back and reread. All right, so let's put the sticky note ahead and see what happens. Hopefully Oscar gets some candy. Soon trick-or-treating was over and the dogs walked past a spooky graveyard. Suddenly, a horrible hissing sound filled the air. Hiss! The dogs stopped, dead in their tracks. They looked terrified. Then, out of the graveyard rose a ghastly monster. The dogs screamed for their lives. They dropped their treats and jumped into a nearby pond. Ooh, they must have been really scared. The monster moved closer. "Please don't eat us," cried the dogs. The monster yowled and hissed. "Boo, hoo, hoo," sobbed the dogs. The monster jumped up and down. "Somebody save us," shrieked the dogs. Just then, somebody showed up. It was Oscar. Because Oscar was so short, he saw something that the other dogs had not seen. "That's no monster," cried Oscar, and with a loud bark, Oscar waddled to the rescue. Oscar chomped and tugged with all his might. Ooh, study the picture. Do you see what I see? Oh, we've got to stop and think. Okay, I want you to think with me this time. Who were the characters on the last couple of pages? This was where we started. Yep, Oscar and the other dogs. What were they doing? So think about that in order. Can you remember? They came across the spooky graveyard and they heard that creepy sound. And then they saw the monster. Do you remember what they did next? They dropped their treats and jumped into the pond, and then they started crying for help. Who came to help them? Oscar came to the rescue, right? Do you remember what Oscar did? He was feeling pretty brave in that part. Remember, he looked at the bottom of the costume and he saw something that nobody else saw? You see the tail and the paws. And we know how the other dogs are feeling in this part. They're terrified. They think they see a monster and they're in a graveyard. That's how I would feel. Okay, so we remembered who, what, and how, so let's read on. Oop, that's going to take us to the end of the story. Let's see what happens. Rip. And there, standing in the moonlight, were a couple of ornery cats. "Help!" cried the cats. "We're being attacked by a giant Frankfurter." And they ran off screaming through the graveyard. They were scared of Oscar. The dogs in the pond had seen the whole thing, and now it was their turn to be embarrassed. "We've been chased into a pond by a couple of cats," they moaned. But Oscar was a true friend. He leaped into the water and swam out to the dogs. Oscar's silly costume made a wonderful life raft, and the dogs climbed up. "All aboard," Oscar called, and he dog paddled back to shore. When they got back to dry land, all the dogs shared their Halloween treats with Oscar. That was really nice. Because Oscar had been so brave, the dogs changed his nickname from Wiener Dog to Hero Sandwich. And from that night on, nobody ever made fun of Oscar again. Oh, I like that ending. Happy Halloween. Oh, but we've got to make sure that we can remember that last part. So who were the characters? Think. Some new characters came into that part. There was Oscar, the other dogs, and the cats, right? What were they doing? Oh yeah, so first, Oscar ripped the costume, right? And the cats were really scared of Oscar, so they ran away. And the dogs that were in the pond were feeling a little embarrassed that they thought it was a monster and it was just cats. So what happened next? What were they doing? Oh yeah, Oscar jumped into the pond and the other dogs climbed up on top of his costume like it was a raft. And Oscar swam to shore and he saved the day. So the other dogs decided to give Oscar some treats since he didn't have any treats before. And I think Oscar was feeling a lot better, and he was actually probably feeling proud of who he was. He had been embarrassed about himself, but now he saved the day and the other dogs were appreciating him. And I think the other dogs were feeling maybe some regret for treating Oscar so horribly. And the story ended with them naming him the hero, and they never made fun of him again. I think we remembered all the parts. So boys and girls, today when you go off to read and every day when you're reading, don't wait until the end of a book to see if you're understanding your story. Keep tabs on your comprehension. Push yourselves, maybe make a stop sign. Every few pages, stop and think. Who were the characters? What were they doing? And how were they feeling? Okay, happy reading.